Let's talk health and fitness and diet, because I'm going through a little bit of transition now. So for those of you who've been following, I had an injury on my shoulder, and I'm also very diet conscious and all of this. And I was planning to like try and trim down the body fat a little bit further, but when I got back from Italy, I just really had a hunger for food after eating so much while I was there. And I've also had like a lot more energy, and I've been doing really big workouts. I used to do 2 a day that were about half hour each, but now I'm doing like one that's well over an hour, and I plan on gradually increasing the frequency and the length of these workouts, right? And because of that, I've just been burning so many more calories. I've also decided to just start eating without a deficit. So I had a massive breakfast of 1,200 calories of like porridge and some yogurt. I had some peanuts, and then I had some granola oats, and just really fill my belly up. And then like an hour later, I got loads of energy for a workout. And it's kind of exciting, because when I've been learning about like weightlifting and bodybuilding, there's a lot of talk about bulking and cutting, and all I've ever done is cut. Like for the longest time, I've been on a deficit. I've been losing weight for years. And so I've never done the bulking bit where you deliberately and intentionally gain weight. Yeah, I'm going to be doing that now. Like, I won't do it forever. I'm going to do it probably until January, and then I'll go on a cut. But I'm going to try and like lift big and eat big now that my shoulder feels so much better and I can actually do things like that. So that's going to be kind of exciting for me anyway. Probably not for any of you. Did you say you have a hunger for food? Does that mean you eat things that are not food? No, it means that I had curbed my hunger. I got my hunger very much under control. And I have again, because today I ate in about a 5-hour window, and that works so well for me. Like, the morning is the easiest time for me in which to hold off from eating. But then once I finish eating about 4 or 5 o'clock, or sometimes 6, usually my evenings are like busy, or I've got a live stream, and I just find myself being focused on other stuff and distracted, because after I finish eating, I've also usually done most of my exercise for the day, and I tend to start doing creative stuff like this. So I just create 2 big windows of time where I distract myself from thinking about food, basically, because as I've said before, I basically have like I'm a foodie, right? Like I would just eat myself crazy if I didn't have any structure to it. I could just eat all day long. My body never feels full up. The other day we had a massive curry. I had a big bowl of 2 curries with naan bread and onion bhajis, and then after I was done, I started eating other people's curry leftovers. Like I can eat like crazy. So I need structure. And yeah, I'm just kind of excited, because now the structure of what I'm doing is that I get to eat more, which obviously will satisfy me. But I'm eating healthy, you know, like it's not just about eating any old thing. Like, calories need to be healthy calories. So I'm not just like reaching for chocolates or whatever, right? It's like I'm having nuts and all kinds of good food alongside, you know, salads and fruit and veg. Lots of fruit and veg as well. Xisuma, do you use a fitness app? I find that they really help. I use LifeSum. I use MyFitnessPal to track my calories, but I have not found a fitness app for tracking workouts. I tried a few, and most of them seem very like they want you to use it in a particular way, and sometimes that involves using it live, right? Like you tap in what you're doing as you're doing your workout, and I just haven't found a way to make that work for me or get benefit from it yet. But it's something I could see myself getting towards. Like I used to work out in a really strange way where I'd stack all the different movements that you do with weight. So I'd like do a superset of 5, and I'd go through all of the motions, and then I'd start them all over again. And that's just not the way people do things in the weightlifting world. It's about doing those things back to back. So you take one movement and you do it, you know, 3, 4, 5 sets of it. I've switched into doing that as well, and like I just feel it in my body. It works so much better. But it could just be the change talking as well. Whenever you make a big change, you usually see results. Like if you're making changes in your health and fitness, like It's the change itself. It's giving your body a new challenge that it usually responds to. So now that I'm working out a different way, I'm probably going to see better results from it, right? X, wouldn't gaining weight and then having to lose it in turn to muscle be hard, like getting into a cozy bed and not wanting to get out? When I'm gaining weight, I'm gaining it through muscle, so I'm not in a caloric deficit. Sorry, I'm not in a caloric surplus. I'm just aiming for even every day. So I'm going to put in as much as I burn out. So I've been building lean mass on a deficit. Now what I want to do is build it without the deficit. So the deficit is me burning fat, but probably also sacrificing some gains as well. If I eat on a surplus, it makes it easier to get those gains, but you also will accumulate fat as well. So the idea is to not have a caloric deficit and not have a surplus either. So in theory, what I'm eating should help contribute the gains that I'm trying to make. What is your advice on burning out on an activity? I've done 12 hours of gymnastics for a while, and now I'm getting bored. So do you have anything that helps with you being motivated? I mean, 12 hours at once or just 12 hours in total? Like, you got to think about what your goals are. If your goals are to have fun, then being bored doesn't make sense, right? But if your goal is to do an activity to lose weight, then, you know, one of the best things to realize is that your goal is worth more than you being entertained by doing it, right? So let's say you pick running as your thing to lose weight. Like, running can really suck, like when you first get into it. I mean, it kind of sucks every time I start running and when I'm doing it, but I just know that the benefits of it are so good. So you keep going at it. So sometimes it's not about being entertained. Sometimes it's like, hey, this is work. I got to do this. You know, I've got a vision for what I want. Maybe that's losing weight or just being healthier through having better cardio. And you got to put in the work. That might be the way to look at it. But if you are looking for a physical activity that is also fun and entertaining, change it up. Like if gymnastics isn't working for you, try something else. And if you're going to spend your time floating around from one thing to the next, nothing wrong with it as long as you're enjoying it and doing it and, you know, not wasting money on buying loads of equipment every time you find some sort of new sport, right, that you want to try. Also, rotation can be good. You know, maybe you find a couple that you really like, but you don't want to do them all the time. Rotate. Like, I got really into cycling before I went on holiday, and now that I'm back, it's colder here, and I just don't feel motivated to. And I could be like in this mindset of being disciplined about it, but I know that where I'm at with my like fitness and training and whatnot right now, that I should probably just focus on one thing rather than two. Like when I wasn't weightlifting as much as I can now, I was doing both cycling and running, but now it's like I'm going to have to focus on one because I'm spending so much more time weightlifting. There's a bit of management to be done there, and since I'm not really motivated to do cycling, it makes sense to go with running because I'm more motivated to do that. I don't know why, just that's what it is, right? RT Vanderlei says, hey X, what sport do you suggest to lose weight and often? I tried running, but it hurts my lungs. If it's hurting your lungs, run at a lesser intensity. If it's cold where you are, then that could be a part of it. That really, like running at this time of year for me, not October, but like November, December, January can actually be a little bit tricky, which is why I got a treadmill because I use it indoors. But cardio is generally considered the best for losing weight. I would always recommend mixing in a little bit of resistance training with that as well, because if you build muscle while you're trying to lose weight, it helps. Like muscle costs calories to keep, so it helps. Like it's like a compounding effect, right? You build a little bit of muscle, and then day by day, that muscle is helping you burn fat essentially, or consuming the calories that come in, and therefore you have to use fat burning. I'd also look into doing what I do, which is intermittent fasting, so that you can alongside doing cardio, you can optimize your body to burn fat when it is at the end of the window of intermittent fasting. That's why when I do it, I tend to try and get some sort of cardio exercise in before I eat. So I'm at the end of my window, I'm going to eat soon, I'll get on the treadmill for 20 minutes. And then like you're essentially like at that point, all of the, what is it called? Glucose or glycamine or whatever these fancy words are. You've got loads of like energy stored in your muscles and your body from carbohydrates. But at the end of that intermittent fasting window, you're going to expend most of that, and your body's going to have to turn over to using your body fat to give you energy to those muscles. Is swimming a good cardio sport, says Dutchy and Nick? I don't think it's as intense on cardio. I couldn't really tell you. It might be a bit more intense, but I know that it's very good for joints. There's not a lot of tension on your joints in your body when you do something like swimming. You know, you're buoyant inside of the water. You're not running with like your body weight slamming down on your legs. El Benko says, can you explain intermittent fasting more, please? Okay, so fasting is not eating. Intermittent means sort of doing it periodically, right? So maybe 3 to 4 times a week. I tend to do it more like 5 to 6 just because the act of doing it structures how I eat, and I find that very valuable for making sure I eat right. Yeah, so what you're doing with fasting is your body runs out of all the carbohydrate energy and it starts to burn fat. So the keto diet is related to this because you cut out the carbs and then your body is in this state of ketosis where it uses the fat in your body more. Now, if you do intermittent fasting, it will generally, use body fat. If you do some exercise with it at the same time, that helps ramp up the amount that you're going to be doing. I've also heard that you shouldn't have a big caloric deficit, like at tops 100. I also heard don't have a caloric deficit if you're doing intermittent fasting, but I did it for a long time and it seemed to work okay for me. I don't know. Hey X, because of your streams, I started running a 5k every weekday and I feel great, so I got to thank you for that. Slingshot Waffle, awesome. Yeah, that will make you feel great running a 5k every day. I did 5.5Ks 5 days in a row, and like it was a bit of a system shock for my body at first, but man, did it make me feel good. I've also noticed that my resting heart rate has slowly been dropping over time. I think I need to get back into running further. Like I use my Fitbit and I've kind of dropped from a resting heart rate of around 41 down to 50 over the course of like a month. And so if I look back a month, I was running outside more, but now I'm running indoors on the treadmill and I'm running faster but for smaller amounts of time. So I think I might, like before it gets too cold, try and get out there and run a bit more. What do you eat when fasting? At specific times, or do you skip those days? Well, when you're fasting, you don't eat anything, right? That's the point of it. But I know what you mean. So when you're fasting, you eat inside of a window. My window is about 6 hours, sometimes a little bit smaller, sometimes a little bit bigger. 6 hours is what I aim for, but eight is what most people start with, right? Just figure out, maybe you start eating at 12 o'clock and your last meal is like 7 or 8. One of the things I was never able to find out through watching videos about intermittent fasting and learning about it is like how strict that has to be, like, because your body's going to be digesting food after you've eaten it, air quotes, right? So how long does it take for it to digest to call it the beginning of your intermittent fasting window? That's why I picked like the 6 hour window, just in case, like, I don't want to get it wrong, right? That extra 2 hours, I mean, surely the food's going to be digested by then, right? How much it take to run 5k, says the Arkoala. Not a lot, like 20 minutes, like 5k is a lot easier on the body. I mean, it depends how experienced you are as well, right? 5 kilometers, says Shagan. Yes, 5 kilometers. The most I've ever run is 12.5, and I did that like a couple of months ago. Maybe I should have continued with that. I was kind of being pulled like in the direction of cycling as well. Maybe I'll just try and get back into that and see what it does to my resting heart rate, because it's like just slowly, like every 3 or 4 days, it's like shifted up a little bit, and I don't know, I found that kind of curious, but hey, your body's always changing, right? 12.5, not bad, says Kerbal Smashing. Yeah, it's all right, isn't it? But for me, it takes me like a long time to get to those numbers. Like I hear about people running like marathons and half marathons, and that's crazy to me. That's like I want a piece of that pie, right? But I don't feel like my body's ready for it. But part of doing the 5.5 5 days in a row was to try and see like what my body would like, how my body would deal with it. Because I was watching this Netflix show about this guy who runs like this Ironman thing where you run half a marathon and then you get on a bike for 100 miles and then you swim for like a couple of miles, and he did 50 days of it in a row in 50 different states, and it was just bonkers to see what he was putting himself through. But it kind of said to me like, your body can do a lot, and so I became rather curious in like how I could push myself. So I did those 5 in a row. I'd really like to get back to a spot where I could do that again, but it's all time management for me. It's just like, What am I going to divvy up my time to, right? El Benko says, do you go to a public gym or do you have home equipment? I have home equipment, and I'm actually like rearranging stuff in my house at the moment because I'm going to buy some cable machines. But yeah, I use home equipment. It's so much cheaper. I brought like a bench and dumbbells, you know, for £100 odd many years ago, and it served me really, really well. Like, compared to a gym membership, you can get a lot done on some very basic equipment that you could buy for yourself at home. How many pull-ups can you do, Xisuma says, just Stolies? Not a lot, because there was a time when I could do quite a lot in a row. Like, in my workouts, I tend to just do, you know, 3 or 4 sets of like 8 to 10, and then, you know, move on to the next thing. Whereas I know, like, things like pull-ups and push-ups, you could do hundreds of them a day. I just don't coordinate my day like that, but I would like to. I would like to try and get that number up, you know. Again, time management, like, I do have to make videos. I can't spend all day running around like a nutter.